When my parents threw me a graduation party just to humiliate me in front of 50 guests by calling my computer science degree worthless paper, I smiled and pulled out my phone. Because the email I was about to read aloud would shatter their perfect little world and prove that sometimes the child they underestimate becomes the adult who owns their future. My name is Kinsley, and this is the story of how my graduation party became my parents' worst nightmare and my greatest triumph. But before I tell you about the night that changed everything, you need to understand what led to that devastating moment when I turned their public humiliation into their complete destruction. The Grandview estate sprawled across 3 acres of manicured lawns and imported Italian marble, its colonial columns reaching toward a sky that seemed too perfect for what was about to unfold. My parents had insisted on hosting my college graduation party here, claiming they wanted to celebrate my achievement properly. What I didn't realize until that night was that they'd actually planned the entire event as an elaborate stage for my public humiliation. The guest list read like a who's who of our city's elite family friends, business associates, prominent community members, and every person whose opinion my parents valued more than their own daughter's feelings. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables laden with champagne and catered delicacies, while a string quartet played softly in the background. It should have been magical. Instead, it felt like walking into a beautifully decorated trap. Kinsley. My mother glided toward me in her signature Chanel suit, her smile as perfectly crafted as everything else about the evening. There's my little graduate. Come, everyone's dying to hear about your studies. The way she said studies should have been my first warning. I smoothed my simple black dress, the one I'd chosen specifically because it looked professional without being flashy, and followed her toward the center of the main ballroom where a small crowd had gathered around my father. Richard Blackwell commanded attention without effort. At 55, he was the epitome of old money success: steel gray hair, perfectly styled, custom suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, and the kind of confident bearing that came from never having his decisions questioned. He was also about to make the biggest mistake of his life. "Ah, here she is," my father announced as we approached, his voice carrying that particular tone he used when he was about to say something he considered profound. "My daughter, the college graduate." A small round of polite applause rippled through the gathered crowd. I recognized most of the faces: the Hendersons from the country club, the Ashfords who owned half the commercial real estate downtown, the Carmichaels whose pharmaceutical company dominated the East Coast market. "Thank you all for being here," I said genuinely, though something in my father's expression made my stomach tighten with unease. Mrs. Henderson, resplendent in her signature pearls, stepped forward with a warm smile. "Kinsley, dear, we're so proud of you. A computer science degree from Stanford, how impressive. What are your plans now?" Before I could answer, my father's laugh cut through the air like a blade. "Plans," he repeated, his voice carrying just enough volume to ensure everyone could hear. "Well, that's actually what we wanted to discuss tonight." My mother moved to stand beside him, their united front forming like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. "You see," my father continued, his tone taking on the patronizing quality I'd learned to dread, "Patricia and I have been doing some thinking about Kinsley's situation." The word situation hung in the air like a threat. Mr. Ashford leaned forward with interest. "Oh? What kind of situation?" My father's smile was the kind you see on predators just before they strike. "Well, James, I'm sure you understand the challenges facing young people today. All these universities filling their heads with unrealistic expectations, making them think their degrees actually mean something in the real world." A cold dread began spreading through my chest as I realized where this was heading. "Richard," Mrs. Carmichael interjected gently, "surely a Stanford computer science degree opens many doors?" "Does it?" My father's question was rhetorical, but he paused as if genuinely considering it. Because from what I can see, all it's done is fill my daughter's head with fantasies about working in Silicon Valley and starting her own company. The gathered crowd shifted uncomfortably as they sensed the conversation taking an unexpected turn. The truth is, my mother added, her voice taking on that sympathetic tone she used when discussing other people's failures, we're concerned that Kinsley has unrealistic expectations about her future. This whole technology phase she's been going through. It's not a phase, I said quietly, finding my voice despite the growing humiliation. My father's laugh was sharp and dismissive. Kinsley, sweetheart, let's be honest here. Your degree might look impressive on paper, but what does it actually qualify you to do? Sit in front of a computer all day? That's not a career for someone from our family. The circle of family friends watched this public dismantling with the kind of uncomfortable fascination people have for car accidents. We've made some calls, my mother continued, her voice becoming more confident as she sensed the crowd's attention. The Hendersons have graciously offered you a position at their real estate office. Starting at the bottom, of course, but it's honest work. Mrs. Henderson looked mortified. Patricia, we discussed an entry-level administrative position, not. It's perfect for her, my father interrupted, his voice growing louder with conviction. Real work, real people, real results. Not this computer nonsense that's rotting young minds across the country. I felt the familiar sting of tears threatening, but something else was building inside me, something harder and more dangerous than sadness. Dad, I said carefully, I've been accepted into Google's software engineering program. They're offering me a starting salary of $180,000. The number should have impressed them. Instead, my father's expression grew more condescending. Kinsley, that's exactly what I'm talking about. These tech companies prey on naive young graduates, making promises they can't keep. Do you really think you're qualified to work at Google? Mr. Ashford cleared his throat uncomfortably. Richard, perhaps this conversation would be better had privately. No, James, I think it's important that everyone understand what we're dealing with here. My father was fully committed now, his voice carrying across the ballroom. For 4 years, we've watched our daughter waste her time on computer games and coding projects, convincing herself she's building something meaningful. But the reality is, her degree means nothing. It's worthless paper. The words hit me like physical blows. Worthless paper. For years of 18-hour days, countless nights spent debugging code, internships at major tech companies, recognition from professors, awards for innovation, all dismissed as worthless paper. The sooner she accepts that and focuses on something realistic, my mother added, the sooner she can start building a real life. The crowd around us had grown larger as other party guests were drawn by the increasingly dramatic conversation. I could see pity in their eyes, embarrassment for me, and worse, agreement with my parents. I think, my father said with the finality of a judge delivering a verdict, that this party should serve as both a celebration of Kinsley's graduation and her acceptance that it's time to grow up and abandon these childish dreams. The silence that followed was deafening. 50 of the most influential people in our city stood watching my parents systematically destroy my achievements and my dreams in the name of helping me face reality. That's when I made a decision that would change all of our lives forever. I pulled out my phone with deliberate slowness, my hand steady despite the rage building inside me like a nuclear reactor approaching critical mass. You know what, Dad? I said, my voice carrying clearly across the marble floor. You're absolutely right. My degree means nothing. My parents' faces lit up with satisfaction at what they thought was my surrender. I'm so glad you've finally seen reason, my mother said, relief evident in her voice. But there's something you both should know, I continued, holding up my phone so everyone could see the screen. Something that arrived in my email about an hour ago. My father's smile faltered slightly. Kinsley, what are you talking about? I began reading from my phone, my voice growing stronger with each word. Subject: Congratulations on your patent approval. Dear Ms. Blackwell, we are pleased to inform you that your patent application for advanced neural network architecture for predictive data analysis has been approved by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. The confused murmur from the crowd was like music to my ears. This patent, I continued, covers the revolutionary AI algorithm I developed during my senior project at Stanford. The same algorithm that 3 major tech companies have been bidding on for the past 6 months. My parents' faces had gone completely white. But wait, I said with growing confidence, there's more. Google's offer of $180,000? That was just their opening bid for hiring me. But Amazon offered me $200,000, plus stock options. And Microsoft offered $220,000, plus a signing bonus. Mr. Ashford leaned forward with genuine interest now. Kinsley, are you saying you've received multiple job offers? Oh, Mr. Ashford, I haven't told you the best part yet. I scrolled down on my phone with deliberate drama. Because 3 days ago, Tech Venture Capital made me an offer I couldn't refuse. The name Tech Venture Capital sent a ripple of recognition through the crowd. Everyone knew it was one of the most prestigious venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. They didn't want to hire me, I said, watching my parents' faces cycle through confusion, disbelief, and dawning horror. They wanted to buy my algorithm. I paused for effect, savoring the complete silence that had fallen over the ballroom. For $12 million. Mrs. Henderson gasped audibly. Several other guests started whispering among themselves, calculating what that number meant. But here's the really interesting part, I continued, my voice taking on a dangerous edge. I didn't sell it to them. My father found his voice. What do you mean you didn't sell it? I mean I turned down their $12 million offer because I had a better idea. I looked directly at him, my eyes hard as diamonds. I decided to start my own company instead. The crowd was completely captivated now, hanging on every word. You see, Dad, while you were planning this lovely party to humiliate me and calling my degree worthless paper, I was busy filing incorporation papers for Kinsley Blackwell Technologies. And yesterday, I signed my first client. I scrolled to another email on my phone. The Department of Defense has contracted my company to develop AI systems for national security applications. The initial contract is worth $50 million, with options for expansion that could reach $200 million over the next 5 years. The silence in the ballroom was so complete I could hear the string quartet still playing softly in the corner, oblivious to the drama unfolding. My mother's voice came out as barely a whisper. That's impossible. Is it, Mom? Because I have the signed contracts right here on my phone. Would you like me to read them aloud too? My father had turned a dangerous shade of red. Kinsley, if this is some kind of joke. Oh, it's not a joke, Dad. But you know what the funny part is? I looked around at the crowd of family friends who had just witnessed my parents publicly declare my achievements worthless. The funny part is that every single person in this room just heard you call a $50 million defense contract worthless paper. Mr. Carmichael, whose pharmaceutical company was worth hundreds of millions, stepped forward with obvious respect. Kinsley, is this really true? You started your own defense contracting company? Not just defense, Mr. Carmichael. My AI algorithm has applications in medical research, financial modeling, logistics optimization, basically any field that deals with complex data analysis. I smiled at him warmly. In fact, I'd love to discuss potential applications in pharmaceutical development with you sometime. His eyes lit up with professional interest. I would very much like that conversation. I turned back to my parents, who stood frozen in their elaborate trap that had just snapped shut on them instead of me. You know what the best part about all of this is? I asked them sweetly. 3 hours ago, I was your daughter who wasted 4 years on a worthless degree. Now I'm the founder and CEO of a multi-million-dollar technology company. Funny how quickly things can change, isn't it? The crowd around us had completely shifted their attention from my parents to me. These were successful business people who recognized real achievement when they saw it, and they were looking at me with the kind of respect they'd never shown before. But I wasn't finished yet. Actually, there's one more thing, I said, pulling up another document on my phone. Since you both seem so concerned about my unrealistic expectations and need for reality checks, I thought you should know about the investment offer I received this morning. My father's voice was hoarse. What investment offer? Wellington Private Equity wants to purchase a 40% stake in my company for $200 million. I let that number sink in for a moment. Which would value my worthless degree at about $500 million. Mrs. Henderson actually applauded. Several other guests joined in, and suddenly I was standing in the center of my parents' carefully orchestrated humiliation party receiving a standing ovation for achievements they'd just finished destroying. My mother looked like she might faint. Kinsley, why didn't you tell us any of this? When, Mom? When would I have told you? During the countless conversations where you dismissed my work as computer games? During the family dinners where you complained about my unrealistic expectations? Or maybe during the planning for tonight's party, where you decided my graduation was actually an opportunity to publicly shame me into abandoning my dreams? The truth hung in the air like smoke from a fire that had consumed everything they thought they knew about their daughter. The real question, I continued, is why you thought it was appropriate to invite 50 people to watch you destroy your daughter's confidence instead of celebrating her achievements. Mr. Ashford stepped forward, his expression serious. Richard, Patricia, I think perhaps you owe Kinsley an apology. But I held up my hand to stop him. Actually, Mr. Ashford, they don't owe me anything. Because this conversation has been more valuable than any apology could ever be. I looked around at the crowd of influential people who now understood exactly what kind of parents Richard and Patricia Blackwell were. You see, everyone here tonight has witnessed something remarkable. You've seen 2 successful adults try to destroy their daughter's dreams in public, assuming she had nothing to defend herself with. What you've actually witnessed is the moment those parents learned their daughter had already surpassed their greatest achievements while they weren't paying attention. The crowd murmured agreement, and I could see several people looking at my parents with barely concealed disgust. But here's the part that makes this story really special, I said, saving the best for last. The Wellington private equity deal? I'm not taking it. Confused whispers rippled through the crowd. I'm not taking it because last week, I received a better offer. Tesla wants to acquire my entire company for $1.2 billion. The number hit the room like a physical force. Several guests gasped audibly, and I watched my parents' faces drain of all color. Elon Musk himself called me yesterday to discuss how my AI algorithm could revolutionize autonomous vehicle technology. We're meeting next week to finalize the details. I paused, looking directly at my parents. So you're right, Dad. My degree does mean nothing. Because I've already moved so far beyond what any degree could teach me that Stanford is now asking me to come back as a guest lecturer for their graduate AI program. The crowd burst into spontaneous applause again, but I wasn't finished delivering the final blow. Oh, and one more tiny detail I forgot to mention, I said with devastating sweetness. The reason I know so much about everyone's financial situation, the reason I was able to identify the perfect investors and clients for my company, is because my AI algorithm doesn't just analyze data, it analyzes people. My parents looked confused, but several of the business owners in the crowd were beginning to understand the implications. For the past 2 years, while developing my system, I've been analyzing publicly available financial data, business records, market trends, and investment patterns. My algorithm can predict with 97% accuracy which businesses will succeed or fail within the next 5 years. The silence that followed was different now, it was the silence of people realizing they were in the presence of something unprecedented. And according to my analysis, I said, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper, Blackwell and Associates real estate is projected to lose 60% of its value within 18 months due to overleveraged commercial properties and exposure to the upcoming market correction. My father made a choking sound. Dad, your company is going to collapse. The algorithm shows patterns in your investment choices that indicate you've been making decisions based on emotion rather than data. You're going to lose everything. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. But don't worry, I continued with false brightness, because I'm feeling generous tonight. Consider this my graduation gift to you, a free consultation from a $500 million AI system. I looked around at the stunned faces surrounding us. The moral of this story, everyone, is simple. Never underestimate someone just because their success doesn't look like yours. And never, ever humiliate your daughter at her graduation party because she might turn out to own your entire future. My name is Kinsley, and this is how my graduation party became the night I proved that sometimes the child you underestimate becomes the adult who owns your world. My parents thought they were teaching me a lesson about reality. Instead, they learned that their reality was about to be controlled by the daughter whose dreams they'd tried to destroy. And the beautiful irony? Every single person in that ballroom would remember this night as the moment they witnessed genius, while my parents would remember it as the night they discovered their daughter had become too powerful for them to ever hurt again. The girl they called a dreamer had become the woman who owned their nightmares. The Tesla acquisition was real, but Kinsley had one final secret: she had been secretly recording her parents' humiliating comments throughout the party. The next day, she released the audio along with her success story on social media, where it went viral and destroyed her parents' reputation permanently. The family friends who witnessed the party began distancing themselves, and her parents' real estate business collapsed not from market forces, but from the social consequences of their cruelty being exposed to the world.